Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Prater Magic. I'm your host, DM Cross, and today's episode of Deck Tech Tuesday is very near and dear to my heart. If you've been following along with the past 3 episodes, we have been going through my predictions for the Commander 2017 tribes that we might be getting. If you've been following along with the leaks and the spoilers, and plus also we're getting geared up to have the official reveal, you know that we're only 1 for 4, and the one that we got right is the one we're going to do today. The ones that we've done previously were Esper Zombies with Allura, Abzan Elves with Doran, and Jund Goblins with Prosh. But today we got it right. Today we're going to be doing Queen Marchesa, Mardu Vampires. Mardu being red, white, and black. I'm super excited about this because I'm a huge vampire fanatic. Bram Stoker's Dracula is probably one of my favorite stories. I read it when I was a kid and I just got hooked instantly. So vampires, I've done vampire decks before. I've done them in Rakdos, which is red-black, Grizzix, which is black, blue, and red. I've done vampires a number of different ways when it comes to Commander, and I'm excited to do this deck tech. I put a Twitter poll up, actually, because I wasn't 100% sure which would be the better Commander, either Queen Marchesa or Zergo Helm Smasher. I figured Zergo Helm Smasher would do really well because he's a big monster of a creature, and he gets counters on himself, just similar to how vampires tend to do in Magic. And you guys blew it out of the water. Day one, Marchesa was winning 89% to 11%. It was crazy. So guys, because I'm so excited about this race, this episode is going to be maybe a little bit longer than usual. I'm going to go into depth that I don't normally go into because I love this tribe so much. However, we're going to do some extra categories. We're going to go to 8. However, the first few categories, ramp, draw, recursion, I'm going to try to skim through those a little bit in order to kind of make the video not too long. So hopefully you guys forgive me if I kind of skip past some things. You can always pause the video and read the cards if you want. You can look them up, etc., etc. But before we get into the deck tech, I do want to remind you guys that we have a giveaway going on here at Prater Magic. What you have to do is you have to subscribe to the channel, find your favorite MagicOnline Commander League episode, it doesn't matter which one it is, send out the link on Twitter, and put the hashtag MOCL. We will find you. You will be listed as somebody who's entered into the giveaway. And when we get to 50 subscribers, you will have a chance to win a dual deck plus first curse. When we get to 100 subscribers, we will send out a second one. So if you don't win the first one, you have a chance to win the second one. So do that. Tweet out those links. Hashtag MOCL. Get in for a chance to win one of the dual decks. But enough about that. Let's get into what we're doing today. Deck Tech Tuesday, Mardu Vampires. Queen Marchesa's Mardu Vampires. Queen of the Damned, even. Long may she reign over life, unlife, everything. But we gotta know what Queen Marchesa does, right? So here she is. She is a human assassin, 3/3. She's not a vampire. Yet. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge for later. She costs 1 red, white, and black. She has Death Touch and Haste, so already just those stats alone make her pretty impressive for a legendary creature. 4 mana, she's a 3/3, Death Touch and Haste, which means turn 4, probably turn 3, she's swinging. Do you really want to put your Death Touch or a creature in the way of this Death Touch commander, or do you want to take 3 command damage? It's very dicey. However, she has a awesome ability of when you enter the when she enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. What the monarchy says is that at the end of your turn, if you're the monarch, draw a card. If anybody deals damage, combat damage to you, they become the monarch and they basically take your crown. Once monarchy is introduced into a game, it's actually pretty hard to get rid of it. Basically, you have to kill somebody without doing commander damage, and then the monarchy doesn't pass on. But I don't understand why anybody would ever want to do that. The monarchy is probably one of the coolest things I think Magic's ever introduced into the game, because again, it's card draw, it encourages some combat, but it's really cool. However, of course, Queen Marchesa, she's possessive of her crown. She worked really hard to get it, and she doesn't want to let it go. So you know she has ways to keep going, or keep her hands on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent is the monarch, so if somebody's stolen your crown, put a 1/1 black assassin creature token with Death Touch and Haste onto the battlefield. So basically, if somebody's stolen her crown, she hires somebody to go hunt that person down and, stab them with Death Touch so she can have her crown back. That's super cool. I like it a lot. And you'll see that it's going to be very easy for these kind of little assassin tokens. They're not unblockable, but they're going to get through. Don't you worry about it. But that's Marchesa herself. Of course, a monarch does not win a war all on her own. She needs some subjects, she needs a foundation, she needs a kingdom, she needs a castle, she needs all that good stuff. So let's talk about how we're going to get her that stuff. And first thing we got to do is we got to build up. So how do we build up? We ramp into it. We ramp it up. And the first thing, the ramp in some of this deck is going to be kind of ordinary. It's not super unique to her. There's one card in here that I think is really cool for her, but we're going to get to that one last. Some things that you're going to have are the signets in all their colors. So you have the Rakdos signet for red-black, Orzhov for white-black, and Boros for red-white. Another one that you have, because it's a tricolored deck, you know I love my chromatic lanterns, so all your lands are now a lot more flexible. They can tap for any color. The next one that we're going to have for ramp, Expedition Map. There's going to be some important lands. Actually, the next category is important lands, so we're going to talk about which ones you want to go and get with Expedition Map. And then, of course, it's got black in it. You can already guess what one of the important lands is, but we'll talk about that in a second. We have Crypt Gas. Crypt Gas turns all your swamps into basically double mana. Uh, this is the interesting card for her, not Crypt Gas, but Nirkana Revenant. Nirkana Revenant is a 4/4, costs 6, Vampire Shade, and basically has the same thing that Crypt Gas, where all your swamps will give you an additional black mana in addition to whatever it is that they're tapping for. She can also Fire Breathe, and you can pay black mana into her and give her +1/+1 until end of turn. That's not really important. I just like the fact that there is a vampire version of Crypt Gas for the vampire deck. I actually struggled for a little bit about maybe taking Crypt Gas out and just having the Revenant in there, but I figured one, redundancy, two, one's a 4-drop, one's a 6-drop, so you can get one now and get one later, and then your swamps can tap for 3. Why not? I mean, that's more ramp. Why wouldn't you want that? So let's talk about those lands. So the first lands that we're going to talk about is Urborg, Tome of Yawgmoth. You guys have seen this on this channel before. I don't really have to explain it. Every land becomes a swamp in addition with Crypt Gas and Revenant. They're now tapping for 3, whatever they originally tapped for, and then black and black. Another cool card, though, that goes with this combo that I haven't really talked about on the channel is Cabal Coffers. Cabal Coffers tap 2 generic it, and you can generate black mana equal to the swamps you control. With Urborg on the field, all your lands are swamps. Cabal Coffers is a swamp. Urborg is a swamp. Your plains are swamps. Your Evolving Wilds is a swamp. I'm trying to think of like a really bad land that you could have. Or your Throne of the High City is a swamp, and that's actually going to be another one of the lands that I want to talk to you about. One, it makes colorless mana, and that's okay, doesn't really matter. However, the cool part of it is when you can tap 4 and it and sacrifice it to become the monarch. So if somebody's stolen your monarchy and you can't attack them for some reason, they have a light minefield, they've got ghostly prison or propaganda, they have a celestial archon, something that's preventing you from dealing combat damage to them. You sacrifice this baby, and boom, all of a sudden you're the monarch again. Don't even have to worry about combat, and you probably even got a little assassin token of Marchesa's on the field, so you got something for free, kind of, sort of. Next card I want to talk to you about is Rogue's Passage. This is what I was talking about, where if you can't get Throne of High City or recast Marchesa, you can make the assassin unblockable by tapping 4 and tapping Rogue's Passage, and then you can hit whoever the monarch is in order to, again, get your crown back, because you want that crown. Of course, not only do you want to make sure you have ways to get the crown if somebody does take it, prevention, you want to be proactive instead of reactive, so why don't we just stop people from hitting us with a Maze of Ith. Maze of Ith, you tap it, you untap target attacking creature, and basically remove it from combat. Does no damage, takes no damage, it's just safe back wherever it was. So if somebody comes at you with 3 creatures, you've only got 2 blockers, you blocked the 2, and you Maze of Ith the last one. The last card that I want to talk to, actually, the last set of cards I want to talk to, I have nicknamed Painlands. They are important for the deck, for a card that we're going to talk about later, but first let's just go over them really quick. You have the Shocklands. Basically when they come in, you can deal 2 damage to yourself and they come in untapped, or you can just bring them in tapped. You have them for, again, the 3 different colors, red, white, black, red, black, white. You also have Fetch Lands, where you tap it, pay a life sacrifices to go find either a mountain or a plains or a swamp, depending on which one you have. Again, they are 2 colors as well, so white, black, black, red, red, white. And then last but not least, you have the ones that basically tap for mana, but they hurt you a little bit. So, City of Brass, tap it. It deals 1 damage to you, but 1 mana of any color. Mana Confluence, same thing more or less. Again, that's going to come into play later on. So, you have your ramp, you have your cool lands, some of which is hurting you a little bit, and you're not sure why, but you will in a second. let's talk about how we're going to draw some cards. Of course, if you run out of cards, you don't have anything to do. So you don't want to do that. So you want to keep drawing cards, and there's a couple of good ways. This is not the best draw engine out of any deck I've ever built, but it's enough to keep you going. The first card I want to talk to you about, the Monarch. This is what you get when Marchesa enters the battlefield. As you can see at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, the controller becomes a Monarch. As long as you keep the Monarchy, you're going to be drawing an extra card every turn. So that's always good. Don't let it go anywhere. Phyrexian Arena, you guys have heard me talk about this. I want to skim through some of these to get to some of the more unique cards to this deck. Pay one life, or I'm sorry, lose a life at the beginning of your upkeep to draw an extra card. Enchantment, one black black. Greed, another one that I've talked about before. 3 and a black, enchantment for black, pay 2 life, draw a card. Again, paying life is not a big deal from Phyrexian Arena and Greed. And Greed also kind of gives me that vampire feel because vampires are people who basically like live their life in paying for blood, bartering blood. Either they need blood to live or something. So you need blood, sometimes you need cards, so sometimes you gotta give to get. I kind of feel like that's a vampiric kind of thing. The last one is a little bit more unique, or not unique, but it's special to this deck. Sorin, Grim Nemesis. Sorin's Grim Nemesis, his plus ability reveals a card from the top of your library, puts it in your hand. Whatever the converted mana cost, it deals that much damage. So it's not necessarily a draw. It technically skips over drawing cards. However, it does have the perk of, well, one, it gives you what you need. Puts the card into your hand. And it also does a little bit of damage. People can say that you can whiff with this ability by getting a land, but that's still a land that I'm not going to draw next time I go to draw a card, and it's another card in my hand, and it's another card out of my deck, which means that there's less land in my deck that I could draw for, but it's a bad thing? I don't think so. So there you go. That's drawing cards. So another thing that I'm going to talk about that is not the greatest kind of thing that I've ever done in the deck is recursion. Bringing things back from the dead. You would think vampires are very good at recursion, but they actually really don't. Maybe because they're already undead, they've already been brought back from the grave. Maybe that's what it is. But let's talk about some of the recursion abilities. Probably the worst recursion card in the deck, recursion card. When you see the card, you're going to be like, that's not a bad card. It's the worst for recursion. Whip of Erebos. Why is Whip of Erebos bad? Because it exiles a card, gives you a token version of the creature, and then exiles it at the end of your turn. So for recursion, it's not super great. However, it does give all your creatures lifelink. So the life that you're paying into Greed or Phyrexian Arena or from your Pain lands, you have a way to get it back. You just attack, they deal damage, you gain life, and it works. The next card I'm going to talk about is Palace Siege. Palace Siege is one of the cool cards that came from Khans of Tarkir. It costs 3 black and black. It's an enchantment. You get to choose one of the modes when it enters the battlefield. You could choose to drain life if you want, the dragon mode. However, for this particular category, I want to mostly be using this for cons in order that every upkeep you get to pick a card from your graveyard, put it back in your hand. Not quite as good as putting it back on the battlefield, but it gets you a card back, and that's what you need to worry about. The next card is probably my favorite card for recursion in the deck. Athreos, God of Passage, might as well be called Athreos, God of the Undead, because he says that whenever a creature would go to your graveyard from the battlefield, you can have an opponent pay 3 life to put it in the battlefield for real, or to give it back to you in your hand. The reason why I like this is it's kind of a political card, and that's what I like to think of when I think of Queen Marchesa. I like to think of politics, queen, hierarchy, political sabotage and stuff like that. You can basically, if you're in a multiplayer game and you have somebody with a low amount of life, you keep asking them, hey, do you want to lose life or can I have this back? Hey, do you want to lose life or can I have this back? Your opponents might get so mad, and if they can't get through your defenses, they might kill that person just to keep you from having cards. So they're going to almost do your dirty work for you. It's actually really cool. The next thing we're going to talk about, removal. None stand before the vampires because we're going to destroy them all. There are a huge amount of removal spells in this deck. It's amazing because, again, it's black-white. It's basically a removal suite. Vampire Hexmage is really cool. It's a vampire, and you can sacrifice it to remove all counters from target permanent. Do you know how Planeswalkers live? By having loyalty counters on them. Do you know what happens if they have no loyalty counters because you remove them all with Vampire Hexmage? They die. That's cool. So this vampire could be the downfall of any Planeswalker on the field. Another way to get rid of Planeswalkers? Hero's Downfall and Ruinous Path. One's an instant, one's a sorcery. Both say destroy target creature or Planeswalker. Ruinous Path does have an awaken cost Don't worry about that. You're probably not going to need that ever. Awaken basically turns a land into a creature. Completely different block. Don't worry about it. But it will get rid of a planeswalker for the same cost, 1 black black. Anguish Unmaking and Utter End are really good spells if you need something to go away and not come back. They exile target non-land permanent. One costs 1 a white and a black, but makes you lose 3 life, and that's Anguish Unmaking. The other one costs 2 a white and a black, and that will just exile target non-land permanent. They are both instant speed, so you can play them at any time. And basically, like I said, if you're worried about removal, if somebody's playing a graveyard deck or a recursion deck, boom, these key pieces of their strategy are gone for good. No more. Of course, if you do need to just destroy a creature or sometimes an enchantment, you do need something like Mortify for 1 white and a black at that instant speed, destroy target creature or enchantment. There's also another spell that's really good at getting rid of enchantments and artifacts, or artifacts depending on how you cast it, Wear and Tear. One side destroys artifacts, one side destroys enchantments. It's a relatively cheap spell overall, and it's at instant speed and you can play both parts at once, provided you have the mana, of course. The next card that's going to be for removal is our big removal spell, Damnation. If things are getting out of control and your board doesn't look very good, but somebody's got a bunch of creatures or a bunch of tokens or whatever, boom, Damnation, destroy all creatures, they cannot be regenerated, no regeneration shenanigans. Before anybody thinks to ask, I do know that there's 2 white versions, and why aren't there more board wipes in the deck? Wrath of God and Day of Judgment are the other 2 that cost the same. Day of Judgment doesn't say they can't be regenerated, and Wrath of God does. Uh, those are great cards. They do the same thing, again, with that minor difference with the regeneration on Day of Judgment. However, I felt that Wrath of God and Day of Judgment weren't as flavorful for a vampire deck as Damnation. So I kind of felt like that was a win. So there you go, there's our removal suite. We have a bunch of target removal. You can get rid of almost anything you want, sometimes permanently. So, let's talk about our battlefield. Vampires are notorious for not just doing things themselves. Sometimes they have some help. They have servants. They have almost pets. Human servants and pets, right? So we're going to have a bunch of humans on the battlefield that might be discard, they might just be there for blockers, they might be there for chump blockers, who knows? Who knows what they can need for? And do you remember I was talking about how sometimes giving up life can be a good thing for a vampire? It's a really good thing when you have Darien, King of Keldor, because every time you lose a life, you get a 1/1 soldier token with Darien on the field. How cool is that? So you could tap a swamp, pay 2 life to draw a card from Greed, and get 2 soldiers? I don't see a downside. Plus, you're going to gain a decent amount of life throughout the deck. I mean, Whip Veravos alone gains you a bunch of life. And I'm sure some of the vampires have lifelink as well. This card is so cool because you basically get an army. As a matter of fact, you're assembling an army. Kind of like Assemble the Legion. Assemble the Legion is a cool enchantment because every upkeep you put a counter on it. Then, for however many counters it has, you get that many 1/1 red-white soldiers. So the first turn it's out, or the first upkeep that it survives, you get 1 soldier. Then you get 2. Then you get 3. Then you get 4. And if somebody doesn't do anything about this, it kind of gets out of control really crazy. Of course, not all the time do you just want to build up forces. Sometimes you need to prevent people from coming over at all. Sometimes you don't have blockers. Sometimes you don't have these cards out and you haven't built up your army like you want. Orzhov Advocates is a cool card from the last Commander set. I love this card so much. It is, again, so political. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, each player can put 2 1/1 counters on any creature they want. That, of course, that they own. You could do it too. It's a deal, though, because what they get, they're giving you something. They're giving you a turn of safety. Everybody who takes the 1/1 counters cannot attack you until your next turn. The funny part about this is that you can take the counters, but the restriction is still that you can't attack you. So don't hurt yourself, but get those counters. Very nice, very nice. Another cool card to prevent people from doing things, especially if like you're trying to do the Boros charm trick to give Marchesa double strike, is Grand Abolisher. Grand Abolisher is a human cleric that says during your turn your opponents can't cast spells or activate the abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. So it basically says this is my turn and I'm going to keep my turn my turn. Of course, we want to protect our queen. We have to protect the queen, right? That's like Monarchy 101. And in order to do that, we have Bastion Protector. Bastion Protector says commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. So now with this on the field, Marchesa is a 5/5 Death Touch Haste indestructible. That's pretty cool. It'll help her survive a board wipe. If people do have target removal, they have to get rid of Bastion Protector first, which is always really good because who knows, maybe they don't have a lot of removal. So it's a really cool card to kind of basically make people say, stop it, leave me alone. Another important thing for a Monarch to have is somebody who can take care of the dirty work. Who takes care of the dirty work? An assassin. Well, we have assassins. Marchesa makes assassins, right? But what about really, really good assassins? Like Kea Ghost Assassin. The flavor win of this card is amazing. Kea Ghost Assassin is the assassin that Marchesa hired to kill King Brago Eternal in order to usurp the throne from him. So why is she such a good card? Well, for one, she has a bunch of different modes. She's also very unique. She doesn't build up to an ult and then pop. She has basically consistent value. Her top ability is 0 and basically you reset her. Her minus ability is everybody loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. And then her other minus ability, which is -2 as opposed to the -1, is that everybody discards a card except you draw a card. So it's basically very quickly developing a lot of card advantage. You got to watch out with this. You definitely want to have maybe your army in place so that people don't just try to kill Kea instantly because she does lower herself and then have to reset. So she's not the most valuable planeswalker you've ever seen, but it's really cool. And again, flavor win all day long. I will always go for a flavor win. So there you go. There's your human servants. But I know you guys want to see the vampires. You want to see the vampires. That's why we're doing this deck tech. Let's start getting into some of the vampire support cards, our foundation of blood. So there's going to be some vampires in this category. There's going to be some things that rely on vampires. What do I mean? Well, our first card is a vampire. Drana, Liberator of Malakir, is a vampire ally. She's a 2/3 flying with first strike. The cool thing about Drana is that when she hits somebody's life total, when she hits an opponent, she gives 1/1 counter to everybody else that's attacking. But she has first strike. So she hits in for her 2 damage, and then let's say you have 3 other creatures, they haven't hit yet, they get a 1/1 counter, and they get stronger before they've hit. So let's say somebody blocks, and blocks a 3/3 with a 3/3. So they're predicting they're going to trade. It's not great, but hey, you lose something too. Well, Drana hits, and they forgot about that. Now you have a 4/4 to their 3/3, and you just gobble it up. And they've lost something, and you didn't have to lose anything. How awesome is that? Drana is really cool, also because she's giving 1/1 counters, which as you start to see through this part of the video, that's going to be a theme that we're going to kind of carry on with. The next card we're going to talk about is Rakish Air. Why is Rakish Air really cool? Because guess what? When a vampire you control deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on it. What did we just talk about? We want counters on our vampires. We want them to get bigger and stronger for every hit they take. It's almost like for every sentry or for every person that they drain, they get stronger. That's how vampires work. They work on gathering power. So our vampires are going to keep gathering power. Cathar's Crusade, another card that's going to basically make our creatures get more and more powerful. This time, a creature just has to enter the battlefield. Imagine this thing with 3 black mana open, Darien on the field, and Greed. You lose 6 life, draw 3 cards, and then put 6 1/1 counters on all your creatures. Because Darien's going to make 6 creatures enter the battlefield as soldiers. Keep in mind, they get the counters as well. That's insane. The next card I want to talk about is Stencia's Masquerade? Attacking creatures you control have first strike. Really good for trading purposes. It's hard to trade a 3/3 with a 3/3 if my 3/3 hits your 3/3 first. I mean, it's just, come on, combat tactics. However, the really cool part about this is whenever a vampire you control deals damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on it. It's Rakish Air on an enchantment. That's awesome because enchantments are harder to get rid of sometimes than creatures. Next card, Curse of the Stalkbray. Again, whenever a creature deals combat damage to the enchanted player, put a 1/1 counter on it. So yes, you do kind of have to pick somebody, and there is also the concern that your other opponents could potentially get those counters as well. But as long as you're getting more counters than everybody else, that means you're growing faster than they are. And with all your other ways of getting counters, it's almost definitely happening. And that's, I'm pretty sure it's good to entice. Who knows? You can put this enchantment on maybe the next highest person, and make it look like they're a good target. Here, hit this person. I mean, you get something for hitting that person. You don't get anything for hitting me. You get something for I'm helping you, right? Vampires, they help people, right? Next card we're going to talk about is Urge to Feed. Urge to Feed's a cool card. It's an instant for black black, and target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. You can then tap as many vampires as you want, and each one of those vampires gets a 1/1 counter. So it could be a removal spell at the end of an opponent's turn where you just kept up all your blockers and they didn't attack you because they were worried that you were going to do something crazy, and then you do something crazy like take out a creature and make all your vampires stronger. Stensia's Banquet is an interesting spell. It costs 3 total, 2 in a red. It's a sorcery, and it deals damage to target opponent equal to the number of vampires you control. And then you draw a card. The more vampires you have, the more damage it does. You get a card out of it. It costs 3. I kind of wish it was at instant speed, but overall, I think it's a good card, especially in something like this. It's gonna get really better with some of our. It's gonna get really better. It's gonna get a lot better with some of the cards toward the end of this category, and you'll see why. Next card, Blood Tribute. This spell is a bomb spell. It can change the atmosphere of the game in an instant. Blood Tribute is 4 black black. It's a sorcery. It has a kicker to tap an untapped vampire you control. It almost sounds really bad because it's sorcery speed, so basically you're losing a blocker. But target opponent loses half his or her life, rounded up. If you paid the kicker, you gain that much life. So if there's if there's a life gain deck that's in like the triple digits, you're gonna gain a buttload of life and bring them down to everybody else's level. You have to watch out with something like that because you could be making yourself a target this way. But I mean, with that much life, and you're running vampires. Come on, what do you care if you're a target? You're always a target. You're a vampire. The next card I'm going to talk about is why Stensia's Banquet is so cool. Conspiracy is an enchantment. For 3 black black, when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. Cards you own that aren't in play, creatures, spells you control, and creatures you control are the chosen type. I don't care that you are making human soldiers, or just soldiers, because I don't think they're human soldiers. I don't care that Darren's a human this. I don't care that anybody's in anything. Now everybody's part of the family. Everybody has just become a vampire. Stensia's Banquet is now going to do massive amounts of damage. And you're just going to have vampires. I mean, you're going to have vampires. It's awesome. Another card that does a very similar effect is Mephidros Vampire. This 3/4 flying vampire costs 4 a black and a black, so a little bit on the expensive side. But it says each creature you control is a vampire in addition to whatever else it was previously. It also gains the ability that whenever it deals damage to a creature, put a 1/1 counter on the creature that's getting this ability. So all your chump blockers, if they have First Strike from Stensia's Masquerade, they hit and then they grow a little bit. So 1/1s can hit a 1/1 and become a 2/2 and then not die. Or, I mean, hey, maybe your creatures are just getting chump blocked. Make people pay for the fact that they're chump blocking by getting bigger creatures because they're vampires and vampires are awesome. So, finally, I said there was going to be 8 categories. We're on category 7. Category 8, the Vampire Covenant itself. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the cooler vampires here. We've seen a lot of them already because the support cards, some of the removal, and everything else. You've seen vampires, but here's going to be probably what I would say are the most awesome vampires in the deck. First one, Blood Artist. I know, Blood Artist. It's a 0/1 that costs 1 in the black, and it's just a vampire. Why is it so cool? Every time another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Vampires want to attack. Your opponents want to chump block you. Okay, you're still gonna lose 1, and I'm gonna gain 1. It's almost like having a lifelink. It's, kind of sorta. Another one that's very similar, Falconwrath Noble. Same thing, except it's a flying 2/2 and it costs 4 instead. And same thing, same effect. Next card is Bloodline Keeper. This one is cool. First of all, it's a flying 3/3 for 4 mana, 2 and a black and a black. That alone is halfway decent, But then it can tap and put 2/2 black vampire creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield, so it can generate little 2/2s. Then, if you tap a black and transform a Bloodline Keeper, well, first of all, before you even try to do that, you have to have 5 vampires already. The fact that he makes vampires means that a few turns later, you're probably going to be able to transform him. And what does he transform into? The Lord of Lineage. He's now a flying 5/5 and gives other vampire creatures you control +2/+2. Not only that, but he can still spit out little vampires. That's awesome. So now he's not spitting out 2/2s, he's spitting out 4/4s because of his buff. That's amazing. One really cool card, and everybody should know this card, Olivia Volderen. Olivia Volderen is probably everybody's first pick for Vampire Tribal when it comes to like regular decks where you really want an actual vampire to be in charge of your deck until the Commander 2017 product comes out. She costs 2, a black and a red. She's a 3/3 flyer. For 1 and a red, she can ping somebody for 1 damage. If she kills it, that's great. It doesn't really matter. She gets a 1/1 counter for pinging it, but she also turns the creature she pings into a vampire. Why would you want to do that? Because for 3, a black and a black, or 3, yeah, no, 2, a black and a black, gain control of target vampire for as long as you control Olivia Volderen. So she makes vampires and then takes them. She makes vampires and then takes them. It could be a little expensive, but don't forget, like you're like talking about tripling your mana input from Nurkana, Revenant, and Cryptcast. So you'll have mana. Don't worry about it. However, if you don't have those cards out and you don't have buttloads of mana that you don't know what to do with, find Captivating Vampire. This is a 1 and a black black vampire, 2/2 other vampires you control get +1/+1, so it makes your vampire stronger. And then if you tap 5 untapped vampires you control, gain control of target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. There is no line in there that talks about giving the card back. You just got a cool new creature. Ta-da! Hallelujah! That's really cool. Just like kind of Bloodline Keeper 5 is a magic number, so once you start having 5 vampires, or just cast Conspiracy with Assemble the Legion out and get tons of little 1/1 vampires every turn, and then start tapping them and taking people's stuff. It seems pretty cool to me, right? Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. Okay, now we're gonna get into the cool vampires. Sorin, Lord of Innistrad is one of 3 Sorins in the deck. That's right, I said there's 3 Sorins in the deck. The first 2, Lord of Innistrad and Solemn Visitor, they have similar abilities but in a different order. The Lord of Innistrad's +1 makes tokens and the minus gives a buff, whereas the Solemn Visitor is basically reversed. His minus or his +1 gives a buff and his minus makes creatures. So, depending on what you need, either one can work. Obviously, it depends on the situation whether I'd want creatures or buffs. Because you might have a lot of creatures and you don't need one more 2/2. But if you give like 10 creatures +1/+1, you're putting 10 power on the board as opposed to putting 2 power on the board. So it's situational. The last one is probably the most hated Sorin Markov ever printed. It's Sorin Markov. This 6 mana planeswalker for 3, a black and a black and a black. Starts off at 4. Most people don't even care about what his plus ability is. It's his minus ability, where he could take an opponent's life total and set it at 10. Oh, you have infinite life? It's at 10. Oh, you went into triple digits? 10. It's so cool. When somebody just like starts comboing off and life total, life total, life total, and passes the turn because they don't have a way to end the game right there. Sorin Markov, you're at 10, attack you with like 30 power in the air. You've only got enough to block like 2 of them. Good game, buddy. Oh my god, it's so cool. It's also kind of a jerk move sometimes, especially if, I guess if somebody like lives off their life total. But I mean, hey, if you're gonna go ahead and try to gain that much life, you kind of have it coming for you. I mean, people are gunning for you, and boop, you're at 10. And look, hey, look, now you're not targeted. Maybe I don't even have to kill you. If it's on an infinite loop that they can keep doing, maybe you're fine to just sit there. I did you a favor. Just sit there. It's okay. It's okay, guys. It's gonna be okay here in Mardu Vampires. So that's it. That's the deck. That's Mardu Vampires. Queen Marchesa is the Queen of the Dams Vampire Coven. I really hope you guys enjoyed this particular deck. I Really had a lot of fun brewing it. Vampires, again, probably my favorite creature type, even more so than goblins, and I love goblins. Um, I'm super excited about pretty much everything to do with Commander 2017. I'm excited that there's going to be a Mardu. I'm excited that there's going to be a Vampire Tribe. I'm excited that it's going to be Mardu colors. Um, but I was really excited to brew this deck. It made me really think about what the best cards were, how to do the best strategies, the best kind of removal. All the support cards had to be completely perfect. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to make sure that the deck list is one, it should be up on your screen so that you can see everything. I'm going to also make sure that I give you a link to the deck list below so that you can go and look at it anytime without having to go through the whole video and stop it right here and then pan back and forth. It's I'm going to tell you now, it's a little pricey. I spared no expense when it came to making this deck, but it's probably mostly the lands. The pain lands that I talked about before are a little bit pricey. They probably were about 40% of the entire deck. The cost of it in paper was $470 about, whereas online it was like $135, which for an online deck is pretty expensive. Again, I'm really excited about those Commander 2017 Vampires. I really cannot wait. If you're paying attention, the day I recorded this is the 2nd. I'm sorry, yeah, the 2nd of August, and today was revealed that Edgar Markov is the vampire who is basically the face of, or going to be the face card for the deck. So I'm really excited to see what they do with him. That means he's going to have an Eminence ability, which is like an Allure ability where if he can sit in the command zone and give his people, his vampire tribe, some kind of a benefit. I really want to know what you guys think about this deck, vampires in general, vampires in Magic. Once Edgar Markov gets revealed, if you're going to build him, if you're going to build some of the other vampires that might get printed, etc., etc. Please, guys, send me some tweets on Twitter. Give me some comments in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys and hear what you guys are going to do when these products come out, or even how you build vampires now. Speaking of Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter at DM_cross, and you can follow the Praetor Magic channel at Praetor Magic, all one word. Don't forget that you need to go and if you're subscribed, go and find your favorite Magic Online Commander video and tweet it out with the hashtag MOCL so that you can get entered into our giveaway. If you're already subscribed, make sure that you ring the bell on your way out from the video so that you get notifications every time we upload something so that you don't miss anything like more giveaways or cool deck techs. Who knows? Maybe if you comment below, the next deck tech could be yours. Speaking of which, if you want your deck to be featured on the channel, you can send me the link in the comments below or on Twitter, again, at DM_cross, and I'll look it over. I'll maybe shoot you some messages back and forth, and we'll come up with, hey, how does the deck work? What are your best strategies? How can I represent your work the best? Speaking of entries for Deck Tech Tuesday, we are done with our Commander 2017 products. We have done all 4 tribes. We're done with that. So what's next here on Deck Tech Tuesday? Well, if you guys have seen the Hour of Devastation Magic Online Commander League video, if you haven't, first of all, I suggest you go and watch it. It was a really cool video where Lycoris, aka our editor John, basically turns around and tells us this is the Locust God and it's the most broken card ever printed in Magic. So I asked him if I could use his deck for a deck tech video. He agreed, so that is what we're going to be doing next week. I'm super excited about it. It was so hard. I tried so hard to stop it from working with my Scarab God, and I couldn't. And
shut up, Jeff Marshall. I know you like your Locust God. I don't care.
so we're going to be doing that next week. I'm super excited for it. I hope you guys are too. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you leaving that like and that comment. Hopefully you're subscribing for more. And on behalf of the Queen of the Damned herself, that's all I got for y'all. Peace. Love y'all.